So something I think you may disagree a little bit about me on, but we agree a lot is, and it kind of ties together in with the community college system itself is, and college in general is, the relationship that students should have not only with their professors but with the students they have in the classroom themselves. And I know you're a big proponent of saying that group work shouldn't be allowed, or not shouldn't be allowed, but shouldn't be such a common practice in college. And you want to explain why?
Because it's well, I want to specify it shouldn't be required. I guess is a better thing because we all understand. We're adults. We've worked with people. Learning to work with people who you may not agree with is important because that's life. But as a requirement for a college student, my grade relying on someone else's work just doesn't sit well with me. Now, I get it from the social experiment standpoint, and it should be encouraged at all times. It should be allowed even. But required is just, it's very juvenile, I suppose. And while we're trying to teach an adult way of doing things, and just because as an adult, we all know how this goes, right? There's one person who never does their share of the work. And it doesn't matter. And that's even in the adult world and the business world when you have to work on something as a group. We all know that one guy or gal who doesn't do their share of the work the way they need to be. And so the idea of my grade requiring someone else to do their job, it doesn't sit well with me, particularly when I'm paying for this class and I'm paying for this education. But it's tough. Yeah.
Well, what would you say then to having requirement classes, like on my side having group communication or group discussion classes required for certain majors? Do you think that should be a requirement, or should that be put in the options of like pick one of the list, like a critical thinking class or an anthropology class? Should that be put down there instead of making it a requirement?
See, I don't mind them as a required class depending on what your major is. I think in your case as a communication major, it makes sense that you would be required to have a group discussions class. Because again, the value in learning to talk with other people, learning to respect other people's opinions and beliefs, and also learning not to be intimidated into silencing your own are important in communications. Like that is communication. So it makes sense. But if you're taking a random English 205 class, I don't see why you should have to do group work. It just doesn't really help your situation. But I do value group work. Obviously, I've coached basketball my whole life. I understand the value in teams and teamwork. But in the education system, it tends to backfire more often than not.
Yeah, I just personally think that group work is, like you said, both it's a curse in the way that, like I even know in my group discussion class alone right now, that although it's a group class and we have to do it, there's still people that for some reason decide that they're not going to go and put in the work to get everyone a good grade. They're going to just kind of, in a sense, half-ass it to get the work done and then just get it out there. Because if me and you are in a class and you want to be a C average student, but I want to be an A average student, you're going to bring my grade down from an A to probably like a B just because of the work that you put in. And I don't think that's fair, technically speaking. I think what it does do, in a sense, though, at least from the experiences that I've encountered, is that it kind of challenges you as a person to go and challenge them as a student and say, look, I want to get an A in this, and I know that you want to get a C, but if you can just do this for me now, we can get this over with, or I may be able to help you get that higher grade. Because although you may be a C student, there's advantages, and I don't want you to bring me down for your thing. But I think especially at a college system where people may only want to get theirs and get out, I think group work is both a blessing and a curse because it teaches you to, like you said, be more than just one-on-one. It's more like, 1-on-5 or whatever. But it also brings it to the thing of people that never want to speak with the groups, that are just always trying to be pessimistic, will also bring those people down. And I think that kind of is it's just a bad thing that can happen. But overall, I think group work has its possibilities of success. But the big thing is, like you said, I don't want to get my grade tarnished and stuff for people that just want to let's just throw this out there and see what happens kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's to me is the biggest problem is we all have different aspirations and goals when it comes to college. Some of us operate by the model that C's get degrees. and others of us are driven by the A and graduating with honors and certain things. And so when you get in these groups, particularly when you aren't allowed to pick your groups, um, those dynamics all come into play, and it can be a positive, right? Those kids who are focused on the straight A's can help motivate that kid who's just there to get a C. But conversely, that kid there who's maybe just there to get a C can help the kid who's so focused on straight A's recognize that there's more to life than just A's.
Oh yeah.
So again, there's tremendous value to be learned from each other, and I suppose if it was presented more in that standpoint, from that perspective, if that were the end game and goal of it, I would probably get it. But more often than not, it feels to me kind of just like lazy work from professors. It's kind of like, hey, you five, go do this. And I don't think that those actual life lessons are being taught. I would like to see group work where the assignment really isn't the assignment. The assignment's more so the social experiment of it all. Where at the end of it all, you have to talk about how you work together. Not what you did, but how you did it. Your trials, your tribulations, and how you got over it, because those are the experiences that you truly gain from group work. And unless those are put into the light and made you to force you to focus on, most kids, it's going to go over their heads and they miss the point. But yeah, group work, it's always gotten under my skin. But I tend to be the kid who I don't necessarily care if I get an A or a C, but I do just want the work to get done. And it's always bothered me when I get in groups. So I've enjoyed going back to college now as an adult. Haven't had any collaborative experiences yet, and I'm hoping I don't run into any. But I think I'm better prepared to deal with it now. And it's just frustrates me.
Okay, so I don't think I've ever asked you, but what is your take on, like, what relationship should a student kind of strive for with a professor? Because I know at a UC level, for example, I know a lot of students are just, let's go to class, they're my professor, let's get it done. Where at a community college level, a lot of things you can observe is there's students that are actually trying to make kind of like a friendship with their professor, in the sense that they're not just there to teach and leave. They want the relationship to be more, this is a person that, you know, I can count on or be accountable for. And that's, you know, of course, it's not in the job description for a professor. But what do you think as a student should be that relationship that goes on between a professor and student?
As a student, I see both sides of it. I think for a lot of us, education becomes easier when we can make it personal. So when there's a relationship, when there's that person isn't just a teacher anymore, there's someone you know truly cares about you. You find an external motivation to help you keep you motivated throughout. And I do like that you drew the distinction, though, between the community college and the university level. Is unfortunately at higher education level, it's just so difficult for teachers and professors to be able to do it. You're talking about dealing with hundreds of kids every week. But I think for most of us as successful students, we'd all agree that, particularly at the high school level, a lot of our success can be directly attributed to relationships we built with teachers. Those relationships allow them to hold us accountable when we were slacking. It allowed us to find motivation. And so as a student, I completely get it, because I'm the same. I love having that relationship with my teachers. I love that I currently do have teachers where I can send them a text message that, hey, I have this assignment. I'm not sure how it feels or how it sounds. Can you just read it over and get back to me? And by the next morning, they've emailed me back. I love having that. But then I recognize that for some teachers, that's just hard. They're people. They have families. They have other responsibilities on top of grading all of your assignments. And it's a tough thing. I do think from a mental health perspective, it helps everyone in a classroom to have some type of relationship on some level. Then you feel like you're all pulling in the same direction together. But I get the students who just, hey, I'm just here to get my work done and I'm leaving. I don't really care what you think or say. And it's great to have that kind of motivation, but that's not everybody. But I don't know. It's an interesting dynamic. And obviously at the college level, there's lines and things that you don't want to cross. And it gets tricky because everyone's adults. But I think it's an overall positive to have a healthy working relationship with your professor.
Like, I don't like personally for me. Like, I like to make friends with professors. You know, I like to be able to say that they're more than just a professor, because if you think about it, professor's just a title. They're there to teach. It's just a job that they're doing. You just happen to be in it. Like, when you go to work, you want to be friends with your boss, right? You don't just want to go in there. Your boss orders you around, and that's your thing. And that's kind of what I carry into the college system. Is I don't want to go there just to learn from someone and not even know anything about them. You know, because to me it makes it more interesting. Like, if you know some like dirt, so to say, or something about your professor, when you're going there because of conversations you've had like personally, it makes it that much more fun and actually more integrated into the class, to be able to say like, oh, I can draw this line from what they're teaching to how they are as a person, and that kind of makes it easier for you to remember, at least for me, to recognize that those distinctions can be made. Whereas if it was just a professional relationship, oh, you come in, take the lecture, to talk to me whenever you have a question about the class, it kind of seems like you can get lost in the college system in that sense. But moving past professors and going into a student kind of perspective of it, I think a big thing that kind of like threw me off, at least this semester when I was in college, is that public speaking, right? Like, public speaking is a big thing about being able to speak in front of people. A big thing that threw me off is the students in that class in particular were kind of those people that you said that were just there to get their work and then leave. Like, they didn't talk to the teacher, they didn't talk to the students, and I just think if you want to have the best college experiences you have, because as you know and you've heard many times for everyone else, college is sometimes the best time of people's lives because it gets you out of your shell. You're going with students that are there to sometimes have fun, sometimes to be serious, and just to have people that are there that kind of just, you know, stay away from me, let me do my work, it kind of feels off. And I even know it may be biased, you know, obviously coming from two of us that love to talk to people and stuff, but I feel like more often than not, students should at least strive to get some personal connection out there, or else they're not going to be happy. We talk about the mental health aspect. So many problems can be helped if people would go out of their comfort zone and just say hello to someone every now and then. That way, because look, if you have problems at home, for example, and you go to college, college is sometimes the only place where you can escape your zone of this shell that you've had of being depressed. And when you have students around you that won't let you go to that, I think it kind of hinders your progress. But do you think that a student-to-student relationship is required, or is it something that's just kind of an accessory piece?
I don't know if it could ever be required, but I think anyone just thinking it through logically can understand that it's beneficial. It's hugely beneficial from just the social engagement part. Because again, mental health. If you're listening to me enough, you know I'm big on mental health. Um, College is overwhelming. The workload can be hard. It can all be stressful and anxiety filled. You're talking about 4 to 6 years of your life that may determine how the rest of your life goes. And that thought doesn't escape a lot of college students' minds. And so that stress can make it easy to kind of become a recluse and go into a shell. That engagement, though, with your fellow classmates is what helps you through it. It's the smiles, it's the laughs, it's all the little things that happen outside of the assignments and things that truly are going to help you grow as a person. And the beauty of college, I don't care what community college you go to, even here in the desert where we live in kind of a bubble, is you will meet people who've gone through so many different things in life that it helps you gain a perspective of just the world. But you'll also meet people who've gone through similar paths, and it'll help you find a friend and a shoulder to lean on. And it's everything. Again, as I said previously, if the only thing you got from college was a degree and not those social experiences and social growth, you missed out on the best part of it all. Because that part's priceless. That part's worth every penny you paid for that college degree. Because we've all been there. We've all had those days. Well, at least you and I. Again, we tend to be more social butterflies, but we have those days where you just don't want to deal with people. You just don't want to deal with anything. And it just takes that one person to smile at you or ask you how your day was going. That one person who walked into that classroom wanting to be socially engaged can make your day. And so it enhances your entire experience from a broader perspective, from a college campus perspective, I think colleges can do more to encourage that. Again, enforce it, no, but it would benefit the whole campus if everyone just tried to enjoy it. Enjoy the experience, enjoy each other, and recognize that this is kind of a once in a lifetime thing.
And I think to kind of just like tie everything together that we've been talking about is that colleges need to somehow try to come up with a better job to integrate kind of not like a requirement, but a way for teachers and professors to go, not necessarily out of the way, but to integrate into the way that they teach about how to maybe get some students involved with one another, maybe get some students, not particularly group work, because that may not work for everybody, but to get them involved, especially in a classroom situation where they're sitting next to someone so readily available all the time that they can just go and simply just do some exercise to just in the beginning, maybe on the first day of class, just a little like icebreaker. That way your class is more enjoyable because the person next to you just isn't a person next to you. It's someone you can actually talk to. And that way you're building, you know that your professor, number one, cares about your relationship with everyone else, so you respect them more. But number two, that you can have someone next to you that you can respect as well. And I don't know how they would do that particularly, especially with older generation professors that kind of want to stay by the books and do new things, whereas new professors, younger age professors would like to kind of incorporate this idea of we need to be with each other to get things done. But I think that the steps moving forward should be placed into how can we make it a living experience, I guess is the best word for it, instead of a fixed and stale experience as a college student.
Yeah, and just to top that off, like I think that's the biggest thing is that engagement allows you to look at your fellow student not as a fellow student, but another person who has good days and bad days. Your professor isn't a professor anymore; they're just another person who has good days and bad days. And when we can start seeing each other as people and not as you're a professor, you're a student, this is a work relationship. When we start allowing ourselves to just enjoy people for themselves, good and bad, we open doors for ourselves mentally to create memories. And it's just, I would like to see us do it, not just in colleges, obviously. The whole world could probably use that advice too, but
yeah.
Just see each other as people and enjoy the experiences that we have with each other.
I couldn't agree more with that, and I just think that it's something that we should live off of, going forward from now on.
Absolutely.